What up to our people, our viewers, our followers, and our supporters? I am Coach O, and this is our National Scouting Podcast show. With that being said, this show is being sponsored by Ink to the T, as well as by Uncontested Hoops. And this show is being broadcasted and brought to you by MeekandZeke Studios, as well as MeekandZeke Podcasters. Hope everybody's having a blessed day. I want to give a big shout out before we begin this show to all our middle school and intermediate athletes, as well as our high school and collegiate athletes, and to all the referees out there that's out there on the field or on the courts of volleyball, the two sports that are in right now. We really appreciate all that you are doing for our student athletes. We know you all's job is not easy. It's a hard job because you got to hear flack from parents, from athletes, and sometimes from other former referees that's probably sitting in the stands saying that you have made a bad call or whatnot. Today's show, we were supposed to have our special guest, Mr. Rocky Ketchum out of Clear Creek High School. He texted me early this morning saying that he was not going to be able to be on the show today because they had a scheduled practice at 10 a.m. today, Central Standard Time, as well as around the same time that we were supposed to be having this podcast show right here on National Scouting Service. This show is being brought to you live on Station Head App Radio, as well as we're going live on Twitter for the second time. Hopefully that those that was watching us on Twitter is getting a good view as well. You're probably seeing the studio form of the interview, but we are live on Twitter. We're also live on Facebook under National Scouting Service. We have two pages, National Scouting Service and NSS, which stands for National Scouting Service on Facebook. And we're live on YouTube under National Scouting Service as well. For all our viewers and listeners that are tuning in on YouTube, you can post your comments on any one of our shows. We'll display them on the screen as you see that our shouts out is rolling up on the screen. And that gives our viewers, as well as for myself, a chance to answer some of your questions as well as to see some of your questions. Now, with that being said, we're going to go into some of our high school news that I have obtained for this show today. And again, for those who may have just tuned in, we will not have our special guest today on this show. But next week, be sure to tune in. We will have North Shore's star running back, Mr. Rashard Johnson. That show will be September the 30th at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Again, we will have our special guest, Rashard Johnson, out of North Shore High School on this show, and that show will be scheduled at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Well, in some high school news, and I'm very excited to be able to be one to mention this, but we had two senior high school ladies out of Oklahoma, which is Wewoka, Oklahoma. You spell that W-E-W-O-K-A. I'm probably mispronouncing the name, but Wewoka, Oklahoma. These two young ladies stepped in, and let me get them on the screen. These two young ladies stepped in for their high school would not have to forfeit a game. And these two young ladies' name is, and they are seniors, Miss Natalie Davis and Kaylee Ramsey. Big shout out to these two young ladies. They stepped in, don't know what position they play, but it don't really matter because they saved their high school from having to have a forfeit in a game. So big shouts out to these two young ladies, Miss Kaylee Ramsey and Miss Natalie Davis. Also in high school news out of the state of Louisiana, we have a young man named Trey Holly who have broken the all-time rushing record in the state of Louisiana. And for that alone, you get a round of applause. And also to Miss Natalie Davis as well as Kaylee Ramsey, you all get a round of applause as well. This young man rushed for, I believe, 8,708 yards. Let me say that again, 8,708 yards. And he has broken the all-time Louisiana Union Parish record in high school football. So big shouts out to him. And I want to give our Max Prep top 4 schools a big shout out. Some of them don't have games a day and some of them do have games a day, or they have played last night. Number 1, St. John Bosco out of California won 65-0 versus Central Catholic. Big shouts out to them. Master Day, they have a bye this week, and I'm pretty sure they're going to put up some numbers next week that give them a chance to rest, get a lot of their players healed and ready to go. Number 3, St. Francis Academy out of Baltimore, Maryland won 26-7 versus another ranked team in number 25, Dutch Fork out of South Carolina. I love how these top-ranked schools play other schools out of other states or sometimes in the same state. I like that. It shows that they're not afraid of competition, and who's ever out there, bring them on because they want them. Also, number 4, Central out of Miami, they play today at 7 p.m. versus Dillard out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So good luck to both of those teams. It gives Dillard a chance of beating a ranked team. So good luck to both of you all. Now, we're going to get into some Texas high school game results from Thursday as well as from Friday. And in some of these games, it was some very interesting games, and some teams won, and you know how it goes. Some teams have to win and some teams have to lose. So in Katy Cinco Ranch Cougars, they lost to Katy Martin Ranch Mavericks 65-77. Houston Madison Marlins won 54-0 versus Houston Austin Mustangs. The Alvin Yellow Jackets, a high school that's right up the street from me, they lost to A-Leaf Taylor Lions 37-20. Also in high school action, we had Aldine Eisenhower Eagles versus the Spring Decaney Wildcats. They lost to that game 35-7. We had Springwood Tigers versus Jersey Village Falcons, and Springwood lost in that game 65-0. Port Arthur Memorial Titans won 47-7 against Baytown Sterling Rangers. Aldine Nimitz Cougars, they won 30-6 against Aldine MacArthur Generals. The Nederland Bulldogs won 38-14 versus Fort Bend Willow Ridge Eagles. Richmond George Ranch Longhorns won 24-21 versus Fort Bend Travis Tigers. We had Deer Park Deer won 35-21 against Pasadena Dobie Longhorns. Houston Scarborough Spartans, they lost 55-0 against Houston Worthing Colts. Houston Chavez Lobos lost 0-48 against Houston Westside Wolves. Tomball Memorial Wildcats lost 20-49 against Klein Kane Hurricanes. And Houston Wisdom Generals lost 10-33 against Houston Milby Buffaloes. Katy Tigers won 59-3 against the Katy Maybe Creek Rams. Katy Seven Lakes Spartans lost 14-49 against Tady Tompkins Falcons. Klein Oak Panthers lost 42-7 against Klein Collins Tigers. And you had Humble Kingwood Park Panthers won 49-22 against the Crosby Cougars. And Houston Cashmere Rams lost to the Houston Washington Eagles 13-0. Brazoswood Buccaneers, big shout out to Brazoswood. They won 42-21 against the Clear Creek Wildcats. And again, like I said, my guy, Rocky Ketchum, he couldn't be in here on the show today because they had a scheduled practice at 10 a.m. according to our scheduled time because of this loss. So hopefully they can get things changed around. Big shouts out to Rocky Ketchum. Clear Falls Knights won 42-13 against the Clearbrook Wolverines. Houston Wheatley Wildcats lost to the Houston Fur Brahms 50-13. Houston Sterling Raiders won big 56-0 against Houston Sharptown Apollos. Pearland Dawson Eagles won big as well, 64-0 against the A-Leaf Hastings Bears. A-Leaf Elsick Rams lost to Houston Straight Jesuit Crusade 42-13. Big shout out to Houston Straight Jesuit. Hopefully we'll have a future fullback, I don't want to say the name, in on one of our podcast shows. Hopefully we can get him scheduled. We had the Barber Hill Eagles against the LaPorte Bulldogs. The LaPorte Bulldogs won 34-27. That's my wife, alma mater. Big shout out to head coach Bernithi over there at LaPorte Bulldogs. Houston Lamar Texans won 35-21 against Houston Heights Bulldogs. We had Rosenberg Terry Rangers lost 19-50 against FourTre Chargers. Richmond Foster Falcons won 41-0 against the Friendswood Mustangs. Bay City Black Cats won 7-0 against the Brazosport Exporters. Galena Park Yellow Jackets lost to the Texas City Stingrays. Sorry about that, Texas City Stingrays. Big shouts out to you all. They won 41-7 against Galena Park Yellow Jackets. The Cy-Fair Bobcats won 37-29 against the Houston Stratford Spartans. Humble Kingwood Mustangs lost to the humble Atascocita Eagles 56-0. Beaumont Westbrook Bruins lost to the humble Summer Creek Bulldogs 69-0. Fort Bend Elksick Knights won 21-6 against Fort Bend Austin Bulldogs. Santa Fe Indians lost 21-51 to the Dayton Broncos. And then we have some scheduled games this Saturday. We had a lot of high school games, but I can't read off all of them. We have some scheduled games this Saturday. We have Fort Bend Hightower Hurricanes versus Fort Bend Bush Broncos. That game is today at 6 p.m. at Macer Stadium. You have Cypress Park Tigers versus the Cypress Spring Panthers. That game is today at FCU Stadium. That game also is at 6 p.m. We have the Cypress Creek Cougars versus Houston Memorial Mustangs at Tully Stadium. That game is today at 6 p.m. And you have Houston North Forest Bulldogs against the Houston Yates Lions at Barnett Stadium. That game is at 6 p.m. today. Also, we have Sam Houston Tigers against Houston Wheatley Huskies. That's at 6 p.m. today at Butler Stadium. So you have a lot of games that you all can attend and go see today. We have Houston Northside Panthers against Houston Waltrip Rams. That game is at Dyer Stadium at 6 p.m. today. So those are some of the scheduled games today. We also have some college games, scheduled college games today. And then those scheduled games, we have a couple that I'm going to read off that are early games that are starting at 11 a.m. today. We have Maryland at number 4, Michigan. That game is at 11 p.m. today. Kent State at number 1, Georgia. That's at 11. I'm taking Georgia in that game. I'm going to throw a little wrench into the game. I'm going to pick the Maryland Tarpons over the Michigan Wolverines. And we have number 20, Florida at number 11, Tennessee. I'm going to ride with number 20, Florida in that game. That game is at 2:30 p.m. today. We have number 22, Texas at Texas Tech. I'm riding with number 22, Texas Longhorns. That game is at 2:30 p.m. today. We have Central Michigan at number 14, Penn State. That game is at 11 a.m. today. I'm taking Penn State in that game. We also have number 21, ranked Wake Forest versus number 5, Clemson. I'm taking Clemson in that 11 a.m. game today. Again, I am Coach O, and this is the National Scouting Service podcast show. And you never know, you may be the next guest on our scheduled podcast show. You can follow us on all our social media platforms, whether it's Facebook on National Scouting Service, as well as NSS National Scouting Service. We are on YouTube under National Scouting Service. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel by clicking the subscribe button and the thumbs up button. We are on Twitter at National Scouting. We're also on Instagram under National Scouting. And you can tune into our podcast radio station, which is on Station Head. You have to download the Station Head app and follow National Scouting. You can come on, ask questions on our National Scouting podcast radio station, as well as post and ask questions on our YouTube, as well as on our Facebook pages. With that being said, this is our show, and I am National Scouting Service Coach O podcaster, and thank you for tuning in. Again, good luck to all the high school and middle school and intermediate schools out there that's playing. We know we have volleyball going on. I haven't had any guests that's wanting to come on to the show, rather if they are a coach or a player, but you're more than welcome. We can get that scheduled. And like I said before, we will have our special guest next week here on our show. That is September the 30th. We will have North Shore standout running back, Mr. Rashad Johnson, right here on our show. That show is scheduled to be at 6 p.m. And you can go to our schedule page pages on YouTube to see what future guests that we will have on our show as well. With that being said, I am out. Hope you all have a blessed Saturday. And again, I am Coach O on National Scouting Service Podcast Show.